Hey guys, we're back with another channel favorite, BlueJay, and he just recently posted a new video. It's titled Absurd Historical Slang That Needs to Come Back. This is a great topic because there is some stuff that I feel like if people knew about it, they'd bring it back again. All right, original videos down below. Please support BlueJay. Give that video a view, like, sub to the channel. And thank you for liking this video if you liked what you saw here. All right, let's get started. I remember talking about a lot of these slang terms in teaching U.S. history, terms like carpetbaggers and stuff. There was a bunch that came out of during the Reconstruction era that I always thought were kind of funny, but they never came back. So, all right, let's see what BlueJay's got. Wore my blue shirt on purpose to celebrate the blueness of the BlueJay.
Slang, idioms, jargon. The words we choose to hurl at each other's faces are just as much of a cultural fingerprint as the clothes we wear or the games we play. This one's my favorite. We've all had that one friend who orders at Mexican restaurants like, yes, I'll have the enchilada y burrito con pollo,
Oh gosh,
por favor.
yep, that
So
guy.
you call them a Kirby sucking club penguin iPad kid. Or something along those lines. But what if you're growing tired of the same old curses, slurs, and TikTok brain rot and crave a more refined lexicon to voraciously vivify vexatiously vulgar tongues? Well, worry not, my chitty-faced chuckaboos, for in today's Circumbendibus, I'm gonna fill that knowledge box with enough slang, slurs, and silly syllables to spifflicate and higgledy-piggledy clapperclaw some bottle-headed addlepates.
What? That was too many at one time. BlueJays are a beautiful animal, by the way.
Now, if you're anything like me, you're a big fan of exploiting the words you use on public platforms to manipulate the masses. But as much as I love to gaslight, no one excels in weaponizing the silver tongue more than politicians. Do you ever find yourself listening to an elected official and get confused by the words they use? Bees! The bees! I wonder what he means by that. Well, luckily for you, understanding the bias and reliability in the words used by important people has never been easier than with Ground News. Ground News is a website and app designed to give you an easier way to read the news. They gather related articles from around the world in one place, and every story comes with a visual breakdown of the political bias, factuality, and ownership to show how different outlets cover the same story, all with ratings backed by 3 independent organizations. For example, take the recent FBI report that showed violent crime has dropped in the United States. Ground News found 160 sources covering the story, mostly from the center. Scrolling through the articles, we can see how the left-leaning sources highlight the drop in crime despite rhetoric from Republicans. Meanwhile, right-leaning sources tend to downplay the findings by shifting the focus and distracting from the overall national trend. Ground News also has a great blind spot feature that shows stories underreported by the left or right. For example, right-leaning viewers would have missed this totally sick story on how octopuses and fish hunt together on joint expeditions. With how much media literacy is dying in our TikTok world, I find Ground News to be an excellent source in shedding light on the latest and greatest developments. Best of all, we're offering all our viewers 40% off their Vanish subscription, which is what I use to get unlimited access to all their amazing features. To get 40% off your subscription, go to ground.news/BlueJay or scan the QR code to subscribe today. Thank you, Ground News, for sponsoring
so important to have different news sources.
Language flows more readily throughout the cultures of the world than ever before. And while that should mean we've achieved incredible levels of information availability, education, and human connection, what it really means is that there's just that many more people you need to shit talk in in-game lobbies. With the comfort of anonymity granted to us by our favorite little TikTok bricks, comment sections.
Hey, I haven't played Call of Duty online in a few years. Is it pretty toxic? What's the most toxic video games right now when it comes to multiplayer and voice chats and stuff? Where are all of like the unhinged stuff coming these days?
And threads across the internet have evolved into a constant battle of wits. And while many think they could just steal quotes from obscure indie films like The Princess Bride or V for Vendetta and call it a day, a true master of the silver tongue must engage in more rigorous and refined study to fully weaponize a keen intellect. I'm talking, of course, about Fight Club, but in all seriousness, to really level up your yapping abilities, we're going to whip out the history books to study the wise words of our ancestors. The non-racist ones, at least. And to help stencil your name onto the list of eccentric conversationalists and or an FBI watch list, I've taken it upon myself to analyze the mountain of obsolete slang and idioms and condense it down to some that I think truly shine. So, naturally, 95% of it comes from poor 18th century British people. And speaking of,
all right, I'm going to write some of this stuff down.
Yesteryear, then a little bit of immersion therapy. Let's say you're walking down the streets of downtown Atlanta after a long night of drinking when you hear rustling coming from the alley beside you. You let out a sigh as you get ready to hand over your decoy phone and wallet because it's Atlanta when you see a magical gnome waddle out of the shadows and introduce himself as Dasher in an adorable French accent.
Lawn gnome.
Glee, you bend over to hear his words of wisdom when, uh-oh, you forgot one crucial detail. You're still in Atlanta.
He's drunk as
probably flips out a switchblade and stabs you in the liver, casting a spell that sends you back in time to 18th century England, but only after magically draining your 401k.
What a scenario.
You find yourself lying in the dirt of a London dockyard, bleeding profusely from the gut. But hey, you're in Georgian London now. Having an open wound is pretty much par for the course here.
Yeah, you're gonna die.
You catch the eye of a sweet-looking older lady who rushes up and asks you what happened. Now, given the crazy fiasco you just went through, you might say, after a bender, this Frenchified Dasher took a flourish with their magical gnome tool and tried to ice me after casting up my accounts. You then watch as her amiable face turns to one of terror as she gasps and responds, "In Arbivite?" Now, you're not quite sure what she means, but noting that horrified look on her face and the magical sounding words she used, you assume she's heard tales of these fantasy gnome scenarios before and respond with, "That's right." The old lady's eyes then widen even more before she quickly scurries off, leading you to believe that she's finding you some help. Now that you're waiting here wondering just how many pints of blood the human body has and whether or not you actually saw a gnome or just Danny DeVito, it's the perfect time to let you know that the lingo of the past doesn't perfectly align.
I heard a joke. It was like, Danny DeVito looks like he's getting shorter because he's actually collapsing in on himself like a neutron star. That was so good.
With the definitions of today. So even though you thought you were able to convey the mythical quackery you just experienced, what you actually said was you paid a sixpence to a flashy hooker with venereal disease for a quickie who turned out to have magical male genitalia and attempted to fart on you after you vomited.
Okay, well, there was a lot there. Literally every word means something else. Now, it would make sense that the British would basically just use Frenchified, the word French, as an inherent insult there. But yes, they did have a lot of interesting words for especially like dirty stuff. Tried to ice me after. Fart, so you start icing people. There's too many words. I'm going to be writing a lot today.
To which, in shock, the lady asked to clarify, a penis? To which you said, that's right. So you shouldn't be too surprised when you see the old lady return with a group of big, strong, angry men with sticks.
Oh no,
This
goons.
situation is what we'd refer to as an uh-oh spaghettios, or as these people would say, a cocafuego, or as your mom would say,
I've heard
Tuesday
of that.
night. Sobbing more tears than Kanye's PR manager, you skedaddle.
Wasn't that the ship, the Cockfuego, the ship that Sir Francis Drake famously was, took forever to seize because it was full of Spanish like treasures? I want to say it was.
Doodle before you're made a fool when you lock eyes onto a tavern and figure, hey, if you're gonna be wounded, might as well self-medicate. But before you can partake in the most classic of British pastimes, you bump into a large mustachioed man. Top of the morning, son. Now, I see what you're off to, but before you go looking for hard seas getting a hickey, how about you reach for me bag o' mystery? What's in there? Oh, I think you know, son.
Don't do it.
Grab me sausage before you get clammed.
Don't do that.
Calm down there, Eddie. This adorable little Eggman doppelganger isn't soliciting a handy on the threat of death. Clammed is actually slang for starved in these parts. He just doesn't want you to go hungry. But heart's ease and getting a hickey? Merely gin and getting tipsy, Eddie. And you better get used to the alcohol slang. As being a Brit in the 1700s, free time activities were pretty much limited to either go drink or go die.
See, I feel like every one of these words I've heard thus far all came out of being drunk. Like nobody invented and used those words sober. Originally, they started while drunk.
True gamer shooting for
what's going on at the top right.
So what this gentleman really said was, before you go get tipsy off some gin, how about you buy a sausage? As a bag o' mystery was a rather whimsical way of pointing out how not even God knows what's stuffed into these intestine-lined sacks of flesh.
That is actually perfect. Get a hot dog or a sausage, right? You go to the ballpark, you're like, get me one bag o' mystery, please. Oh gosh, yeah, you don't want to look at the sausages, but they are delicious.
Popularized in the 1850s, which I know we're currently in the 1700s, but this is my video, so you can all go eat a bag of arborvitaes. This is exactly the kind of phrase I'd like to see make a comeback today, regardless of any potential problems it might pose. Just tap thine card here and your signature. Fortuitous! 2 bags of mystery, my good sirs. Ah, what the? Is this a fucking hypodermic needle? A wizard I may be, but power have I not over the workings of conjuration sausagery. You know, I ought to sue you. Ooh, a mage always prepares runic protections from the mortal arts. What, a waiver? You son of a... Come on, Colin, let's get out of here.
Probably
Colin.
did need to sign a waiver then. He's
Escaping
dead.
from that vaguely threatening encounter, or as they say here, an average British interaction, you finally waltz your way into the tavern with your stomach thoroughly satisfied with meats of unknown origin and also still bleeding. But as you're walking through the door, a hand snaps shut on your arm. Brimming with fear, you turn towards who you assume to be the gang of angry men having finally caught up with you, but are relieved to see it's just a mere homeless man with a wild look in his eyes.
Just a little crank, good sir. If I get candy, I promise I won't shoot the cat.
Ah, good old Crank. Finally, some street slang even a white boy like you can recognize. Well, obviously,
What a
you know
deal.
this crazy meth had to kill a cat, and it's about time you got a side quest in this British fantasy land. Okay, just take it easy. Where can I get some meth around here? Uh-oh, he's looking pretty confused. Great, what did he actually say? I'm glad you asked.
Something
the
else.
term crank is a fascinating example of a word that has independently derived multiple slang definitions over the course
Yeah,
of
because I've heard that
history.
before.
Similar to how a minor fling is not only slang for a short-term casual relationship,
Right.
but can also refer to Dr. Disrespect. While you and I today know crank as those funny little rocks.
Oh, you went there. You went there. Dr. Disrespect, minor fling. Oh, wow.
We're pretty sure Aaron Rodgers smokes. In this time, it was slang for gin
I,
and
house
water.
guy or
So
whatever?
what he actually said was,
Oh, that's what it
"Just
meant
a little
then?
gin and water, good sir. If I get drunk, I promise I won't throw up."
So that used to mean, that's like it mean drugs. Candy. If I get candy, which is drunk, I promise I won't shoot the cat. See, some of these, they're just they're just completely random. It works so nicely when it actually has some like imagery of the thing you're trying to convey, but just having it totally random, that's where I'm hypothesizing it just came from people being drunk on drugs or probably some kind of mix of that.
This guy's not a homeless tweaker, Eddie. He's just British. All right, I'll get you some gin.
I'll give you some spanks.
What? He'll give you some money.
God damn it.
As you're finally able to breach the entrance
Don't
of
trust
the pub,
any
you're met
words.
with quite the exquisite sight. This place is different from the modern-day American bars that you're accustomed to, where you sit down at a sticky table next to that alcoholic that keeps saying, "Haha, must be a hole at the bottom of my glass," before grabbing his keys and scouring the menu for a drink that doesn't taste like straight piss, but isn't too tasty that your immature friend from high school calls you gay, all while seeing how many alcoholics you can convince or find the drive home for a taste of power and listening to the bar's playlist of Journey and or the Black Keys and literally nothing else.
There you go.
Hey, when enough of them are on the
Lose-lose
road, that's
situation.
not a hazard. That's just skill-based matchmaking.
Yeah.
Anyway, the British taverns of old were more than just a place to speedrun liver failure. They were the beating hearts of their local communities, a place for socializing, for business and political meetings.
You just know the alcohol content was just insane. Like no laws or anything. It's just straight alcohol with like maybe 1% of water in it.
The pub was where anyone could go at the end of the day to just let go and be themselves, so long as that wasn't gay or black. The room before you is dimly lit.
Now I will tell you this. So big time increase in alcohol consumption during the Industrial Revolution. The urban working class had huge rises in alcoholism during that, and it's a combination of the harsh working conditions that made life very hard to deal with, and a lot of people, they turned to alcohol. The amount of bars, I mean, bars on every corner is not just like an exaggeration. It was happening in the United States. Urban working class turning to that. It created a ton of social problems because a lot of these angry drunks, unfortunately, were going back to their homes and taking it out on their families. You had all kinds of spousal and child abuse and child neglect, and people using their already very, very tight budgets because of the urban working class not being paid well. This is before a lot of things like minimum wages and insurance benefits, and it was a big problem. It was a huge problem, actually. It's what eventually leads to the moral arguments that are going to lead to things like prohibition in the United States.
The floorboards creak as patrons walk beneath the low ceiling, dodging wooden beams, while the warmth from the open hearth enchants the atmosphere with a cozy ambiance. It's within these very walls that centuries of culture have been molded, shaping the fabric of the society around you, including the very slang you're learning about today.
Hoggy?
You make your way to the bartender as a smile grows on your face, because even with all the trauma you've been through, the spell of the British pub is already starting to work its magic on you. Despite all the stress, all the hostilities, and no McStab wounds, you're beginning to believe that, against all odds, things just might turn out alright. Strip me naked? and the magic is gone. What are you talking about?
Come on, give us a diddle.
What is happening? Just 2 more slang phrases for
more
gin.
euphemisms.
Again, I can't stress this enough. There really wasn't much else to do. Oh, right. To strip you nakeds. You'll do what to me now? Wrong pronoun, wrong pronoun. Strip me nakeds. To go, please.
Oh,
Sure,
no.
coming right up. Oh,
Okay.
Be careful now. You're sitting right next to an admiral of the narrow seas. Oh, thank you for your service.
Is that?
That was slang, wasn't it? For a
It
drunk
was.
who vomits
I was
into
gonna
someone's
say.
lap, yes.
One who drunkenly vomits into the lap of the person sitting next to him. The admiral of the narrow seas. I actually really like that. The narrow seas, like, you know, there's between your legs, like, you know, there's some space there, and yeah, why would he do that? See, I like this. This might be my favorite one so far.
Don't worry, lad. Voice Admiral of the Narrow Seas here to help clean you right up.
Oh no! Tell me that was a thing too.
What's so funny? It's just, I'm happy you're learning. I just feel like I'm being tortured. Oh, yes. But anyway, a vice admiral of the narrow seas was slang for a drunken man that pees under the table into his companion's shoes, which apparently was a common enough occurrence to warrant a full phrase.
That's exactly what I was going to say right here. It's like, you wonder with these, because if it's a minor occurrence, there's no reason to actually put this into the lexicon of your of common speech. But yes, they just changed it to vice admiral. I thought it might be something a little bit more creative, but I don't know. I mean, if you had to choose between the two, which would you rather be the victim of, the admiral or the vice admiral?
Covered in more blood, piss, and puke than a Megan Fox relationship, you await patiently as the bartender brings you your drinks. 2 stirrup cups for you, lad. A phrase for a parting drink given to guests who are taking their leave, typically drink on horseback. So now you have some fun new lingo to use to feel like a little cowboy the next time you're pulled over for a DUI.
Drinking and riding.
What's your name, anyway? Oh, I'm Eddie. Jackie? No, it's Eddie. Oh, Max? Actually, it's Eddie. What the? You gotta be kidding me. Lightning!
There's so many words for gin.
How many words do people have for gin?
Yeah.
Quite the comical amount, actually. In fact, one of my primary sources, a classical dictionary of the vulgar tongue by Francis Gross, has over 25 terms for the liquor. I was surprised at first until I realized the lexicon was originally published following a period known as the gin craze in Britain.
Okay, I wanted to ask, so all of my like English, British viewers here, how many of these terms have you heard or like are actually used? Let me know. Give me some lists down below of the stuff that you hear in this video. What is still actually used? Not necessarily like, okay, I've heard of it before, but like it's actually said.
Where, due to some salty pillow fighting going on between England and France, French brandy was
7 Years
restricted,
War,
causing
post 7 Years War,
skyrocket in popularity amongst London's poor. So intense was this popularity that Parliament passed
Age of Napoleon coming up.
5 major acts just trying to get people to chill with the bottle. I know this might sound rather crazy, but if you want to understand the gin craze today, all you have to do is watch reruns of Ellen.
So I feel like if the British have to sign some of these laws that they're showing here, like, you know, things got really bad. Okay, you're not going to see a prohibition like you had in the United States because it's such a big part here, I guess, of this culture. But yeah, it must have been so bad for them to put this many laws limiting the consumption of some kind. Dude, it must have been nuts.
This might sound rather crazy, but if you want to understand the gin craze today, all you have to do is watch reruns of Ellen. As you grab your stirrup cups to complete your side quest, you hear someone yell, "The launch is starting!" followed by the horrid screams emanating from a girl outside. Surely, you figure, the combination of a launch and woman in fear must mean Elon Musk is nearby. But as you open the door and mentally prepare for a 15-minute monologue of bullshit, you find out that there isn't an upcoming SpaceX launch, but a woman giving birth just outside. While you yet again misinterpreted the situation, luckily, you can write this one out just as you would have if it was Elon that you'd come face to face with.
Exactly. I've seen that picture. Is Elon an alien? Like, he does have this like strange body shape where I feel like there might be some like little alien inside of him, like working him with controls. But back to the definitions. I like that. Like, we need to not say, okay, I'm like giving birth. It's like, no, you know, as you're a woman, I'm getting ready to launch. That's way better. I like that.
Avoid physical contact, say ew that's gross, and advise them to stop having more
Elon's
kids.
like a weird
Rounding
color
the corner
too.
with your drinks, you see a one-armed man crouching behind a barrel stand up and start approaching you. Careful now, Eddie. This sneaksby snacks having snaffler seeks to snaffle and snabble. And while you're busy laughing at what you assume to be a bit of amusing Dr. Seussian alliteration, a mean-spirited highwayman with large teeth comes up and mugs you before stabbing you to death. What? Are you serious? I don't know, maybe.
I got one arm, though.
Maybe. Well, it could also mean this is a sneaky horse thief looking to rifle through your things so he can steal a wig for his pet snail. Slang is complicated, man. I still don't know if
which one's more probable.
Noun or verb.
Well, look who we have here. I knew even the slugabeds would be drawn to the commotion.
A slugabed was a drone. Now, obviously, he doesn't mean the flying kind we're familiar with today.
Yeah.
He means someone who can't wake up in the morning. But ironically, if you think about it,
we've all been that.
Is exactly what modern drones do too. You talking about the launch going on back there? Good for you, Eddie. Way to use the local lingo.
Yeah, the lass is poisoned, all right.
What? Just another way of saying someone is big with child or pregnant.
I love that too. First you get poisoned and then you launch. That's a good one.
Also say she sprained her ankle to say the same thing.
What?
But as you've just experienced yourself,
that's just weird.
Using these phrases today would undoubtedly lead to a lot of confusion.
Exactly. Look at the doctor.
Jeremy, I think I sprained my ankle. You sure did. Congratulations, Jan. No, Jeremy. Oh, God, I think I'm poisoned. Uh-oh, get poison control on the line.
Please, for the love of God, use my phone.
Oh, I get it. Let's see if it's blue or pink. I love gender reveals. Well, glad that she's not dying then. I wouldn't go that far. She's still giving birth outside a pub in a London alley, pre-modern medicine. It's pretty much a coin flip whether or not she becomes a statistic. The beauty of life, right? Speaking of, let's see if you keep yours.
Now, I'm sure you're wondering where me rammer is.
I really don't want to know.
I do.
His arm.
Well, I'll have ye know, I lost it fighting off a 30-foot sea lawyer with me bare hands in the middle of the blind man's holiday. And I took way more from that bloody beast than he got from me.
No, you didn't.
Two excellent 18th century phrases,
Sea
Eddie.
lawyer.
A blind man's holiday is slang for the night or darkness, while a sea lawyer, as you may have guessed, is jargon for a shark.
Oh, I love those. Those are awesome. Gosh. Okay, yeah, there's some of these have been stupid I don't ever want to hear again. We're getting a decent list of really good ones. A blind man's holiday and a sea lawyer. Just what? Because they're vicious and deadly? Is that what he's saying there? Just like the one on the picture here with his glasses and his tie.
One of my favorite slangs, but also quite ridiculous, as none of these guys are smart enough to pass the bar.
That's right. So don't mess with me, son. I'm a bottom.
I really didn't need to know that. Not what you're thinking, Eddie. Amongst bruisers, a bottom is a hardy fellow who can take a good beating. So I guess in a way it is what you're thinking. All right. What do you want?
I'll be a
move on.
Having snaffler.
Yeah, I got that part. So which is it? Are you killing me or looking for a snail wig?
Preferably a nice powdered one with the little ponytails.
I don't have any wigs.
Oh. Well, we'll be taking your shoes then.
Fine.
And do you have any tape?
What? Was that even invented?
Gin.
Surviving that snaffler encounter, you continue your journey to deliver your gin as you acquire yet more open wounds from shards of glass in your newly barefoot grippers. But not to worry, these cobblestones are covered in piss that's at least 20% ethanol, so the only thing you're going to be infected with is shame. As you finally approach him, the wild-eyed alcoholic shoots to his feet, shaking more than an angry dad with Parkinson's.
Oh, gosh!
You really milked the pigeon with this one.
I assure you I did no such thing. To milk the pigeon just means to endeavor at impossibilities. He's saying you really pulled off something challenging.
Oh, that could have meant something else. That could have been a lot of things. That's actually the tamest one that I could think of.
Oh, yeah, really had to slurp the pigeon milk to get this. Not really the way it's used, but I like the spirit.
You're a bit of a clunch. I like that.
Slurp the
Listen,
pigeon
Cole,
milk.
let's say you and me go around back and suck the monkey till we're shitting through our teeth.
Whoa,
right.
all right, buddy. I knew people were weird, but this is getting like VR chat weird.
Yeah,
Fret not, Eddie.
I agree.
Remember the rule of thumb when talking to the English. When
The
in
Queen.
doubt, they're talking about alcohol. To suck the monkey was actually the practice of secretly sucking liquor out of a cask or barrel with a straw. An activity
you.
so comically stupid
But it only
calling
meant
something
that.
You could mistake for a Zootopia fanfic was considered appropriate.
Oh, gosh.
And while the Brits may have reached Looney Tunes levels of alcoholic wackiness, the same couldn't be said for their bodily resilience, as newspapers reported numerous cases of people dying from this stunt. I
Ooh.
would say that'd be a hilarious thing to see written on a tombstone, but anyone slurping an 8,747 ounce big gulp of ethanol probably doesn't have the kind of support structure that'd care about a proper...
Yeah. I mean, tombstones usually don't have the cause of death, but you never know. It could be like Mr. Terry, cause of death, sucking the monkey.
For burial. So, an ounce big gulp of ethanol probably doesn't have the kind of support structure that'd care about a proper burial. So, Eddie, what this guy actually said was, "You're a bit of an awkward fellow. Listen, man, how about we both go suck liquor from caskets with straws until we puke out of our mouths?" I think I'll actually pass this time.
All they do is drink.
Worries. How about we go fist the cow instead? Great, what's this? Chug cow milk mixed with gin or something?
No.
Oh no, that's not an idiom.
Fisting the cow?
Adding yet another tally to your
Dude,
daily
history's so
trauma quota,
gross.
you barge back into the pub not only to get clear of that frig pig, but to get clear yourself. And as luck would have it, you spot a
Wait,
woman
clear means drunk? Very
clear of
drunk?
that frig pig, but to get clear yourself.
So I think it'd be the opposite. Like, okay, I'm going clear finally. Like I'm getting sober. Nope. So what is getting sober?
And as luck would have it, you spot a woman holding an extra pair of men's shoes, undoubtedly taken off the feet of a womblety-cropped nick-ninny. As cool as hobbits are, it's probably best to get them paws covered, so you approach the lass to explain your situation. "Hello, miss, how do you do? Another master of the wardrobe, are we? Oh, you're far too kind." No, she's not, Eddie. That wasn't a compliment. Come on, you're literally covered in puke. A master of the wardrobe was someone so desperate for a drink that they pawned their...
One who pawns his clothes for liquor. Oh my gosh. I mean, that is the bottom.
Literally covered in puke. A master of the wardrobe was someone so desperate for a drink that they pawned their own clothes to pay for it. Oh, no. You see, I needed to bring some lightning to this drunkard outside, and after getting caught up in a launch and a run-in with a snaffler, you really have tongue enough for 2 sets of teeth, don't you? Before you compliment her sick, nasty alien reference, she's actually using a phrase for a talkative person. Essentially saying one set of chompers isn't enough for someone who yaps as much as you do. A feeling I'm sure many of us can relate to. Hey, this is my friend Keith, but be careful, he's tongue enough for 2 sets of teeth. Oh, is that like some kind of idiot? Tongue can also be used in a quirky response to someone asking how old you were. Hey, this is my friend Kevin here. He's the senior manager at my hedge fund. Oh, nice to meet you. That's really impressive. How old are you? As old as my tongue and a little older than my teeth. What does that even mean? There were actually quite the plethora of phrases to describe a talkative person. For example, you also had the term prattle basket. Just a random basket. So essentially, at the end of the day, Eddie, this lady is asking you...
I love the sound effect of that. Dude, I feel like BlueJay, he's getting, it's getting like, I don't know, darker, a little more crude. You see that? Like, it's like at first it was very, you know, the comedic history, but still pretty tame. Shoot, maybe I could even throw it in like in my classroom or something. Now it's just like going down, and I think like we're all here for it.
You to wrap it up. Right, I was just hoping to take your kicks. Uh-oh.
Yeah.
While you've been doing your best to adapt to the contemporary slang, you inadvertently injected some of your modern tongue as well.
What's that mean?
You didn't actually ask her for her extra pair of shoes, you asked the lady for her breeches. Oi, I'll give you a kick in the guts. Gah! Oh, hey, what do you know? He's just talking about Jim.
Oh.
You're not mad? Gods no. Every bloke in town's had a wild night with that one. She's one of my cousins. Psst, that's just slang for harlot or prostitute, so she's not literally his cousin.
You can't even use normal words anymore. You can't even say cousins. I don't know if this is going to work. By the way, he could have kicked his guts in or whatever. I mean, they're kind of sticking out. The poor guy is still like bleeding out of his guts from his lawn gnome stabbing.
Prostitute, so she's not literally his cousin, I think. I mean, the phrase had to start somehow. Well,
yeah, exactly.
Do you guys drink anything other than gin? Why, it's rather rum. While you start to get excited at the prospect of finally another alcohol, around this time, rum was actually also slang for something fine, good, or valuable. And it did a lot of heavy lifting amongst the wretched British population, as it served as an adjective to form additional slang phrases. For example, you had a rum nab, which was a good hat, or rum duke, meaning handsome chap. Make it rum bluffer to say jolly host, or rum bung for a full tote. A rum bugger was a valuable mutt, and rum prince.
Oh, what was that dog's name? It died in space, right? During the space race. Mishka, something like that.
Strut. A rum doxy was a fine wench, rum fuddle a good drink to quench, rum peepers were good looking glasses, and a rum problem is what you have.
You have a rum problem.
Finishing your kick in the guts, you head to the bartender to freshen up your glass. You make a rum fuddle, my good man. I'll take another crank. Oh, you're pissing down me back. Another crank coming right up. I'm really hoping that just means I flattered him. Right on the money, Eddie.
Yeah.
I'm getting the hang of this. There you go.
Just context.
Careful when quack swagging being off and off. I hate the...
Off and off? What is that? So like bottle of water.
British. Starting to feel a bit of wobble in your knees, not only from the amount of alcohol in your blood, but from the increasing lack thereof it, you decide to look around to mingle with some of the local patrons to fully immerse in the pub culture. You're beginning to get a little chilly because, again, you've pretty much got the blood pressure of a quacking cheat by now, so you head on over to a group of men near the open hearth.
He told me yes over some scandal broth that while we went here to soak, he'd join us after some snaffling.
You figure you just might know who they're talking about, but first, let's add some context. Yes is just a contraction of the word yesterday, a must use for any conversational minimalists out there. But be careful contracting too much, because let's say you went to work after being sick with the cold the day before and someone asked you what happened.
See, I'm surprised actually yes hasn't caught on. I feel like as English is evolving, especially when we use technology of like texting and stuff, we want to limit our words, the size of our words down to like 2 syllables max. I'm surprised this one has not caught on yet.
Responding with yes infection could land you an HR meeting. Scandal broth, along with prattle broth, chatter broth, and cat, you guessed it, lap, are all different ways to say tea, getting its definition from it being the beverage of choice for women who like to sit around gossiping, or as we would say today, spilling the tea. To soak was yet another phrase for the great British pastime. However, again, I would express caution.
I've heard spill the beans for some reason, which actually makes a lot less sense than spill the tea. To soak? Oh gosh, that's different in Utah culture.
Soak was yet another phrase for the great British pastime. However, again, I
Don't
would
look it
express
up.
caution using this one today, for asking people to soak with you could land you in hot water depending on their cultural background, particularly when it comes to Mormons.
I think I might have run into that guy you're talking about.
The group of men turn towards you as you make yourself known, and the gentleman who spoke previously responds,
"Did you now? The one ram a toad eater himself."
Toad eater? What does that mean? Exactly what it sounds like, Eddie. A toad eater was someone who was paid to eat live toads and was a must-see attraction at any Georgian-era fair.
It's actually
the idea
literal.
was that since people believe toads to be poisonous, a mischievous charlatan could miraculously cure them in order to sell their snake oil medicine.
I mean, isn't like eating frog legs is a thing, right?
And now, to prove the curative properties of my phantasmal medicine, Johnny here will swallow a live toad.
Woo! Yeah!
Is it Hypnotoad? Oh God! While it's alive. It'd be all wiggling and jumpy. He did. He unzipped himself. Oh, what?
That's for my wife, you son of a bitch. Right. Well, one rammer you said? Yeah, I spoke with the coal outside.
You did what now?
Oh, so close, Eddie. Again, I appreciate the effort, but saying I spoke with the coal means you robbed the man.
Well. Gather around, boys. It looks like I have to settle this cold by a stroke on his knob.
Stroke? Don't get too excited, champ. He's actually saying he's gonna punch you in the head.
Yeah, and after that, I'll give you a blow in that jolly knob.
What is happening? Once more, just saying he's gonna beat your head in. Again, crucial not to misread here, as ideally we want to minimize your inevitable CTE.
All three of us have a pull on that noddle of yours. I'll mill that canister so good you won't be able to walk in the morning.
Okay, these guys have to be hearing themselves. To have a pull is to have the advantage on something. He's essentially saying, by outnumbering you, clobbering your head in will be a piece of cake. So, in summary,
all of these things would mean something very else. Something very different that if it was used today. So a lot of these we probably shouldn't do it because you're probably going to end up getting punched in the face. So make sure you are very careful about what you learn from this video.
Now is an excellent time to start running. Crossing sticky floors, waving bye to whores, and sprinting out the doors, you're once again weaving your way through the London slums. Running through all these streets and alleys, you're really starting to get to see the full glory of the great power that was 18th century England.
So we got to get some more history into this, right? That's what you're here for. So Victorian London. I know people might be like, oh, it sounds like that's fancy, this and that. It's actually one of the grossest places on earth. It had an insane population density. The small manufacturing culture was pretty much gone. And so people out in the, you know, countrysides have been moving now in for a generation or two and tightly packing into the industrial centers of places like London, Manchester, etc. And the conditions could not keep up with this amount of migration in here. So you had tenements and these buildings that were used for people to live in that would be condemned today. And then you had horrible amounts of disease because of unclean water and sewage. We had a cholera outbreak that killed a ton of people. One of the worst disease outbreaks we have ever had happen in this era. Again, because sewage water and consuming water you consume was not, you know, well separated and well directed. And this made it awful, but it's going to take a lot of horrible years for eventually governments to step in and have to start putting in things like waste management programs and building codes and all, of course, the working conditions. Plus, we got child labor. Not a place you would ever want to live.
So as you approach the top of a hill, you figure now would be an excellent time to take in the first-hand views of Georgian London. Let's take a look. Ah, what beauty. This magnificent architecture is what they refer to as the Industrial Revolution, or as we say today, an animation time saver. Rounding a corner, you finally catch some luck as you run into a constable. Oh, thank God.
Constable.
Sir, I'd like to make a report.
I don't care.
I'm being chased down by some men from a pub back there, and I really had to heave my way out of there. Heave, you say? That's right. Right then. Come now, son. I've got some ruffles for you. You're gonna get to polish the king's iron with your eyebrows. Now, you figure this could mean a few things. Maybe he's inviting you to become a specialized worker in the royal court, literally polishing the king's iron. Or perhaps they're asking you to jack him off. Either way, you suppose if you're gonna be hard at work for nobility, the potential reward far outweighs any downsides.
He finally said
that means sweat won't be the only bodily fluid you're drenched in.
We were thinking that didn't have to be said.
Sounds good. But when you say ruffles, are you talking about like the tasty treat? Oh, the spicy treat. No, Eddie. When you told him you heaved your way out of the pub, you actually said you robbed the place. And to polish the king's iron with one's eyebrows actually was a saying for looking out of prison windows. You're very—
Wait, polish the king's iron with one's eyebrows. Look out of prison windows. Okay, I can kind of get that. Your eyebrows are up to the iron bars, and you're like, okay, so these are the ones I like. These are great.
Much so under arrest. What? Actually was a saying for looking out of prison windows. You're very much so under arrest. What? No, this is a mistake. You know, I reckon it's your execution day as well. What? No, this is absurd. Help me, Godbird. Oh, flattery will get you everywhere, Eddie. But it doesn't literally mean you're being executed.
Oh.
He just means you need to be washed. You are absolutely painted in people's DNA after
Another thing
all.
people never did
the
then.
bloke that verbally assaulted Mrs. Locke earlier? Right then, I'm taking you in and you'll go up a ladder to bed. Okay, that one does mean execution. Please save me! Take me back to Atlanta!
That makes sense.
Oh, sure thing.
That makes sense.
You could have done that. The whole time? Well,
it's like a Christmas story.
What kind of teacher would I be if I did? An ethical one? Oh, please. I never took ethics class.
See, if I had magical powers as a history teacher, this is the stuff I would do. And I think every time we sent the class back to some other time period, they would all just come back with a renewed thanks for living in the society we live today and not these old-timey societies.
I feel weak. So, Eddie, now that you got to soak in all the grime and culture, the people and customs, and the pubs and booze of 18th century London, how about it? Feeling ready to wag that silver tongue with a whole new palette of colorful slang?
Nope. Finally died from his wounds.
22 minutes. Getting a little sloppy, Dasher.
The liver was in the way of the aorta artery.
Can't let him bend down next time. It messes up your aim. Good to run a few more drills tomorrow?
Oui.
Excellent. Obsolete slang. 12 out of 10 stars.
Final thoughts. Back 3, 2, 1. It's actually interesting how dirty a lot of those sounded, and they're actually more, not necessarily like innocent back then, but they still were better than what we would probably think for most of these if we had said those today. Like I said, if you say some of these to some people, you're probably going to get a punch to the face. But there are some clever ones that I loved out there. So which ones do you guys think we need to bring back. Let's get some lists down below. Comment on each other's lists. Let's get something going here. All right. Thanks again, BlueJay. Well done. Original link to the video is down below. Please support them, and we'll see y'all next time.